Hey, is this thing on? Are we recording? Can I get a tech person? Oh, for the love of EdTech. Hey, Corinne.
Hey, Kara.
We're talking to Amy Palermo today.
Oh, Amy's the best. You know she's originally from Texas?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Amy's got such a cool story. She's one of the first people I met when I got into EdTech. And I guess one of my favorite things about Amy is she's so passionate about what she does. And she always has a really great perspective on things. So I'm excited that we're going to talk to her today.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. Hi, so joining us today is Amy Palermo from WOSU Classroom in Columbus, Ohio. So hi, Amy. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Good to see y'all.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you do at WOSU Classroom?
Sure. I am the Chief of Content for Education at WOSU Public Media. And Classroom is our kind of department of all things educational from birth through high school. So I get to do all sorts of fun things with education. We run programs for young children. We do a ton of PD, and so professional development, professional learning opportunities is our primary service, and we offer that to childcare providers, preschool teachers, K-12 teachers, and we also work with families with informal learning opportunities. We do some digital productions, just kind of anything fun that's educational. That's what we do.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah, all the
it
fun
is.
stuff.
It's the best job.
Yeah, and how can people find what you're offering?
Oh, great question.
Yeah.
So wosu.org/classroom. And from there, depending on who you are, there's resources and events for anyone looking to learn and have fun.
Very good. All right. So I guess to get started, maybe we'll just talk about your journey into education. And I know obviously you're not a traditional classroom teacher currently, but I have a feeling that you used to be.
Yes. I love hearing people's journeys. Everyone's is so unique. And
yes,
mine
we do
is
too.
Very dear to my heart and very special. So I started off as a middle school language arts teacher. And my very first assignment was I was emergency certified in ESL. Now this is back in the 90s, late 90s, in an area that just couldn't get enough teachers. And so I taught English as a second language and in a Hispanic community. And I didn't know Spanish. And I had kids I had to teach. It was the best thing that could have, everybody should be thrown into this situation, because what it did is it taught me about a fabulous culture that I wasn't familiar with. But it also taught me to make things concrete. And that's really hard to do when you're teaching writing, especially, or reading. It's very abstract, a lot of abstract concepts, but it made me teach differently. Like from the get-go, I had to learn to teach differently. And then probably the best part, I think, of my teaching career, I changed schools. And in this district, we were the first middle school to become an all-inclusion school. This is big news at this point. And I said to my principal, you are crazy. I do not know what you think is going to happen when you put a kid that can't read in my classroom next to an advanced placement kid. This is ridiculous. They said, Amy, it's best for the kids. All right, let's jump in, because that's what I do. Even if I don't agree, there's smarter people than me that know things I don't know. So I jumped in, and it's changed my life. So I was assigned, our team of teachers was assigned a resource teacher, and she taught me different ways to construct lessons to reach more learners. And this is where technology changed my life. And you're going to laugh at what technology it was, but this is what I had a 3 massive desktops in the corner of my room. And then I had a Mavica camera. So I hope there's someone that's listening that knows that it's a camera, and it took a floppy disk. And you could record a few seconds of video. We used the heck out of that camera. The kids would make their own videos to describe vocabulary, words, concepts, whatever it is. The other thing I had was a tape recorder. And
Yes.
so we would have different kids record books and record assignments, and we had a listening station. That's it. That was my tools.
I
That,
love
along
that.
with PowerPoint, brand new at the time, changed my life because I learned how to construct lessons for multiple learners. And as a result, everybody did fabulous. My kids that couldn't read were just knocking it out of the park, and my gifted kids,
Yeah.
they were just having a blast because they suddenly had to construct lessons where it was about reaching specific goals and different ways to get there instead about a rote process. And it changed my life. I fell in love with technology because these small tools had amazing impact on my kids. And the rest, I could talk to you like for hours, and we don't have that much time about my journey, but that's what changed it. I fell in love with technology, and I just couldn't get enough and try enough. And the short story, I went from Texas to Ohio, started with this other organization delivering professional development, fell in love. I just love to teach. I love to teach, and I get so excited when others get excited about something I'm sharing with them because I just know in the end it's great for the kids. So
Yeah.
that's how I got here. I'm definitely very passionate about it and have seen firsthand just how the simplest tools, and it's really honestly, it's really about how you teach. It's not about whatever tool it is, but that opens up a world of opportunities to learners of all kinds. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's great. So on that same, just I guess touching on your journey and what impacted you with technology, for either a new teacher or maybe a teacher that's been teaching for years and is kind of struggling to differentiate instruction and are feeling overwhelmed at the idea of like, how do I, reach the lowest and the highest at the same time? What's the best advice you would give them just to get started or not feel so overwhelmed by the thought of it?
So I agree. Like there is so much out there. I always say find your passion, and that doesn't even have to be educationally related. If there's a piece of technology that interests you, like Canva is a really cool design product, and you want to learn it to make cards for your family, or I don't know, there's so many graphical applications of Canva. Forget school, have fun with the technology, because once you learn it, you're going to say, oh my gosh, my kids, this is what we do as teachers.
Mm-hmm.
We take this and that from wherever we find it when we recognize something that will work for our teachers. And I think our teachers need to be empowered to find the this and that. That's the fun of teaching. That's when you get excited. And I think that's when it sticks and helps you block out everything else. Pick something you love, figure out how to use it, and then see if it'll work with your students.
It's great advice.
Yeah, I like that. Like the more you use it, the more applications will kind of arise from that use. Yeah.
That's
and
right.
we love
Well,
Canva too. We're obsessed.
I mean, let's think about what we do with our kids. We try to make it personal and engaging and find their own interest in whatever we're teaching. We start with that foundation, and then we work in the knowledge and the additional applications or critical thinking skills we need them to acquire. It comes on top of what you already know and what you're passionate about. Same thing for us, what you're passionate about. There's enough out there, and every little bit helps.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes it is just overwhelming, or, you don't feel like you have enough time to like really dig in, or, whatever the case might be. But if you can step away from, I guess, tying it to school and find like the personal aspect of it, and then look later of how you could bring it into the classroom.
I've had so many things work for me that way. I mean, when you're
Yeah.
doing experiments or, well, I won't go into it, but I'll also say if you're overwhelmed, talk to one of your ed techs or your PBS folks, because I happen to know that you two are fabulous to work with.
Oh, thank you.
I'm pretty sweet on my staff too, because if you're overwhelmed and you find somebody to help mentor you or point you in a direction, it's like, it's so much easier to follow somebody who's already got the battle wounds of learning something and kind of steer you in the right direction. I think that's, another great place.
Yeah. And I think too, like we're talking about teachers playing with new technology and trying it out and finding ways that it works for them and enjoying the process. And I think another thing, and I don't know if you two will agree or not, but another thing that sometimes happens when teachers are trying to use a new technology is they want to dive right in and start using that technology at a high level with the kids where they're immediately producing content and not giving the kids that time to play and fall in love with the technology too. So I think that's another thing to consider. Just like we want to have that time to enjoy and learn. If you're adopting new technology to use with the kids, give them some time to enjoy and learn and play with it in a way that they're going to find engaging. And then when you're ready to use it to, for a specific assignment or to create something along a rubric or something, they're going to be ready and they're going to feel confident in it. I think so many times we try to like jump in the deep end with something with the kids and we lose some along the way. They're off bobbing along on the side of the pool,
and I just think it's hard as an educator. Time is precious.
Yeah,
time is so precious in a classroom, and we have to prioritize, what activities we're going to do. I think the important thing to remember is if we think they're playing, they're building a foundation.
Right.
So it is useful time, I will say. It is very useful time. And they're starting that creative process, even if it's not specifically defined.
Yeah. I think it's a shame that we leave that learning through play behind after preschool and kindergarten. It's like, oh, you guys have always learned through play, but guess what? We're not doing that anymore. I mean, I taught middle school. Middle schoolers like to play too. It just looks different.
Absolutely. It just looks a little different. I love teaching middle school because I have the same sense of humor.
I know. Yeah. We always joke that you can kind of tell middle school people by their personality. It's probably true of high school and elementary too, but middle schoolers have
for a certain job, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
All right. Well, I also want to ask you about your take on online learning. I think just because one, I know it's something that you really enjoy, but two, it really goes along with what you were just talking about meeting the needs of all learners and a way to reach all learners. So I'm going to let you take that one away.
Sure. So online learning has been my passion for many years. I don't know, it's probably in 2000 and I'm going to guess 6 that I started teaching online. And I immediately knew I love the potential. This is not working. This is not right. Because I just got online. I started trying to replicate what I did in person online. And I immediately saw the potential for online learning and being able to reach more people and have equitable experiences. I just knew there was something there, but I knew I wasn't hitting the mark at all. So I just started exploring different formats, trying to because it's about engagement.
Yeah,
to me,
and that's hard.
That's the most important part of learning is engagement. I can talk for hours about engagement, but I knew that I had to figure out a way to take down all of the barriers. There's as open as the internet is, and I'll just say, like, one of the things that got me excited was the ability to learn whatever I wanted to learn. Like I love to learn something. That's what
Yeah.
like makes me excited. And there's a lot of us out there, a lot of us educators. That's what we live for, is to learn something new. Well, I want everybody to have this opportunity, but the internet can be scary, especially I'm going to say used to, because our current circumstances have made great changes in that. But anyway, I've been on this and still am on this trek to find the perfect learning opportunity. And micro credentials came along and I fell in love. I love micro credentials. So, for those out there, just to do a quick description,
Yeah.
it's when you're given a set of expectations. It could be that you have to submit evidence of learning. So, it could be like a checklist of tasks, it could be a checklist of specific skills, or a checklist of like specific activities. Whatever it is, you just do it and turn it in and you get credit. So it's really honoring the learner's journey rather than telling the learner what they need to learn and how they need to learn it. So love micro credentials because to me it's empowering the learner to do what they want. And honestly, I'm that bad kid. Like I sit in the back. I was that way in high school and that way now. It's really hard for me to stay engaged, stay focused. I just want to learn, like get to the meat of it. Tell me what I need to know. Let's go on. Unless it's real engaging.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of how I wanted to learn. But I realized not everybody again learns like me. And so I was taking this micro credential concept, but then I was adding all sorts of resources to help the learner. Like, again, just trying to remove barriers so it'd be easier for the learner to accomplish their goals. Anyway, I'm kind of going all off the rails here, talking about how my teaching has evolved online, but I have learned so much. And at the place I'm at now, I feel very comfortable both in synchronous and asynchronous formats because I've focused on engagement instead of, I don't want to say instead of content. The content is important, but it has to be engagement's top notch. Like, I feel like my job
Yeah.
is just, yeah, here's some content, but my job is really to engage you so that you can stick with it and find it meaningful. So, all of that to say, that I've spent a lot of time researching and trying to figure out best practices. And I'm going to give a plug for Teacher Campus because we have built this beautiful platform. So it's teachercampus.org, and it is WOSU's partnership with SOIDA and CETPBS. I mean, come on, this is awesome. First of all, y'all are awesome, but we get to work with you. So your team, my team, we have all of this content that is available to anyone. And that's the power of online learning. I just get excited about it. I get excited about how we can share with others and do it in a really timely manner without physical barriers.
Yeah. Well, and so what's your best advice for ways to engage in online learning? Like if they're teaching third graders online or if they're teaching seniors online, or, no matter the age or adults, what have you found is the best way to do that when you're not really connecting and seeing your class?
So I'll tell you my kind of list of engagement must-haves. And some of these, I'm just going to warn you, you're going to go, that doesn't matter, but I promise you it does. So the very first one is it has to be interesting. You have to connect it to the learner. I'll come back to that. So here's some simple ones. Quality sound. I think that's the most important if you're teaching online, whether it's recorded or live. I have learned through research that sound is what's most important to us. A user, if there is not quality sound, will turn off after, I want to say it's like 10 seconds. Like it's a really short amount of time. And I didn't realize sound played such an important role. So I guess my advice is to wear a headset and not rely on your computer sound, because there is a difference. It's minor, but it has a kind of an unconscious effect on your learners. And then the other one that's real easy is bright light. So you are more engaging than a PowerPoint. A face is more engaging than a PowerPoint. And a lot of times
Right.
teachers can't control where their desk is in a classroom if they're having to teach remotely from the classroom. But if you're going to sit in front of the window, you have to face the window, because if it's behind you, it puts that shadow. And
Yeah.
we're so desperate to connect online. We can't feel temperature of the room or judge small minor body language. So you need to be very visible to your class. If you're going to turn your camera off and just do a PowerPoint, I would encourage you to find a way to mirror the two, because it's just more engaging.
Right.
And then I guess something else, my other recommendation is simplicity. Like, keep it simple. Use numbers 1, 2, 3. And I'm talking about structure. If you're providing content online, like if you have an agenda, or here's what we're doing in class today, or here's the assignment, whatever it is, make it simple for the user to understand what's going on and get to, and then repetitive. Use that same structure all the time. Because as soon as you get lost in directions or resources, you have kind of lost your learner. They're more concerned with getting to whatever they want than understanding the content, and they get frustrated before they ever show up to the activity or content. So keep it simple, keep it repetitive, and most importantly is keep it active. So it doesn't matter if you have 2 kids or 2,000. If you're teaching remotely, you have to have activities. If you're just talking, you're going to lose them. It's intimidating. And when you start doing it, you're going to likely have some bombs that don't work, but you'll find a way to manage whatever class size that is. It has to be like within the first 10 minutes of a session, class, webinar, whatever it is, you got to be doing something. Kids need to be talking, discussing, working in small groups to produce something. Give them a challenge, a riddle to solve. There's just so many ways, even if you're remote, to engage your learners. And I guess I'll say to that too, that building community is probably, well, not probably, is equally as important, because it's scary. I've had the privilege of being in a lot of synchronous online courses with my high school students, because I have high school kids. So I've sat in kind of in the background to watch, and they're dead silent. Like, they don't want to talk.
Yeah.
No one wants to be the first to say something. It's hard enough in class, and then you put this barrier of distance in. So we have to be active and allow them to do that. And once they get used to it, it becomes habit in your class when you build that culture.
What did you start to mention earlier? You said all.
So engagement. They have to be interested. And a couple of ways you can do that is, so I just talked about breakout groups, and that's great, and using that, or small group activities. I also think you need to watch, if you're sharing videos with your kids, the time limit. So I'm jumping back and forth between synchronous and asynchronous classes, regardless of which one you're doing. Videos need to be short. I say 5 minutes. Now, there's occasions when they have to go longer, but try to break them up into pieces. You want to absorb information, and then you want to act on that information. My other advice for engagement is to really focus on creativity. So what can the students create around the knowledge that they are acquiring? Because that's just a fabulous way to lock it in. And it's also a wonderful, if you can think from that perspective when you're teaching online, it will help you lead your students, your lesson planning into interactive activities. If you're going to be creative, you have to do something. So it's just, if you turn on that perspective, it helps immensely with engagement. I guess I'll just finish up with my last lesson learned is, well, I'll give you 2 more. So you can't have the same. I'll give you three more. No. I'll stop at two.
Yes.
Okay.
Give us all of them.
All
all
of
the lessons.
I love sharing. I make so many mistakes because I'm trying new things, but I'm not. Those mistakes help me improve what I'm doing. So anytime I can share all of those mistakes, lessons learned, I just think it's fabulous. So two more. You can't have the same experience in person and virtual at the same time. I'm still looking for that perfect production piece that will allow that. I know there are times when we have to do it, but I'm telling you, it's not the same. If you're trying to teach both at the same time, guaranteed that in-person group is going to hear better, see better, and get feedback and attention more than those that are remote. So I just encourage you to split the two, and if you're in that situation, then put them in groups and have them do different activities so that you can then facilitate between the two. It's just, I feel so bad in those situations for our distance learners when we try to do both. And then evidence of learning is the key. So this, I'm going to speak more to professional learning experiences. I am frustrated when I have to take some sort of class or training or participate in something, and then I get a certificate of attendance at the end because I sat there for an hour. So whenever you want to make it a valuable experience, there has to be something created by our learner that demonstrates the skills and lesson objectives of that course. That applies to students too. So I will also say it needs to be relevant. So they need, if you're learning something and you want to create something, you can use. So those are my must-haves in online learning and all of the things I've figured out along the way.
I love that. So just besides plugging teachercampus.org, I guess, what is your kind of favorite either tool, or I don't even know if it's necessarily a tip or a trick, but what's your favorite thing to tell teachers just to kind of get them started?
Yeah, so blended learning is my favorite, and that can mean so many things to different people. But what it means to me is that you have instruction that is both online and in person, and your activities are like, I'm going to use the word centers. I think of elementary school when I say centers, but multiple group work. I love blended learning because you can have the students in groups doing different things as they rotate through, which frees you up to help. And this forces you into online learning. And you can start simple where maybe only one of those activities is online and the others are, I say the word traditional, I don't necessarily mean that the activities are traditional. They can be very innovative, but they're not technology based. So it's just one lesson, and then eventually you have the directions for your entire activity, your entire lesson online. It's an easy way to gradually move into that online learning environment.
That's great. Corinne, do you have anything else?
I'm blank.
I've said it all about online learning. No, there's lots of different styles. I just encourage learners that maybe had a bad experience to retry. This industry is constantly evolving, I will say. And so an experience you had a year ago could be really different because we are all learning, and there's so much fabulous research coming out to help us adapt. And that's the fun of learning, is you get to keep doing it. That's why I like teaching. My lesson at the beginning of the day looked real different than my lesson at the end of the day. So you learn along the way.
Always. Yeah. I think it's important to have fun with the online learning. I think a lot of us, if we think back to like grad school, or for the younger group, undergrad, maybe we think back on those online classes that we maybe took and they were not dynamic or engaging. It was a lot of reading and responding and being forced to respond to other people's posts, and I don't think those responses were maybe very sincere.
There's no discussion threads required in my course. There's some people who use them very effectively. It's just not my tool. And that's, you got to recognize that different teachers, we just like different things. But yeah, I'm with you, Corinne. I feel the same way.
Yeah. I'm okay. It's okay to do fun things. So whatever courses you've taken, maybe you've taken some really good ones and you want to implement some of those different aspects and features in your course. But if you took a course that was very structured and lots of those kind of requirements and you didn't enjoy that, you don't have to do that. That's not what all online learning looks like. It's so varied. So bring in all the fun things that you love or that your kids love to do. You know your kids.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Well, and really, you can always ask, like, especially if it's kids that you're interacting with often, ask them.
Yeah.
Because that's how I used to always start my school year, was like, what do you guys want to learn this year? And I would just take notes. And some of the things were outrageous, like, and we'd talk about how that would be like a personal goal, because it might be something like a backflip or, interesting that, like, I'm not going to partake.
It's amazing what we can learn and accomplish just by asking our kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime we can give them a voice, I think it's really empowering.
Agreed. Well, thank you, Amy. It was so good
You're
to
welcome.
talk to
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah. We'll have to, I don't know, do it again.
I'll talk more about online learning. Now I've got other things, but I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. I just think there's so much out there for our adult learners, and there's so many ways that we can modify that to enrich our own lessons. So I just encourage your learners to reach out, try things, and call Karen, Corinne, or Amy if you have questions or need help, because we love to help.
Yes.
Agreed. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion today. If you like our podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to get notified when new episodes are released.
For more information about our podcast and to access links and resources referenced in this episode, check us out at fortheloveofedtech.org.